Tayruvan Saranai. The best thing is to listen Dhamma. And now we are going to listen Dhamma. The Dhamma sermon was recorded at Buddhist Meditation Center in London. Today the sessions will be conducted by Most Venerable Nepale Sumana Thero, sponsored by Mr. Don Ratnayaka and Mrs. Drew Ratnayaka and Sons. We will listen to Dhamma sermon, and now we please welcome to Most Venerable Nepale Sumana Thero to commence the session. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Samanta Cakkavalesu Atra Gacchahantu Devata Saddhammang Munirajassa Sunantu Saggamokkadang Dhammasavana Kalo Ayang Bhadanta Dhammasavana Kalo Ayang Bhadanta Dhammasavana Kalo Ayang Bhadanta. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhassa. Visankhara gatang cittang tanhanang kayamajjaga. So today we have observed Sil for Asalapoya, and this version of sermon has been kindly sponsored by Mr. Don and Drew Ratnayaka and Sons, and this is being held at the Sambodhi Buddhist Meditation Center, London, East London. So I'll take this few minutes to explain the two lines of a big stanza and take the process from there. The mind is free from conditioning. The end of craving has been achieved. That's the meaning of it. But to start off it, I'd like to obviously tell you that lots of the things that you've been listening throughout your lives will be helpful to understand what I am going to talk, and it will be helpful for your personal spiritual advancement by all means. And I'm sure it will be repetition, and that repetition also should actually be conducive for you to understand your personal understanding, to enhance your personal understanding, so that we can also eventually follow the footsteps of the Buddha to end the sansaric life and to end suffering or unhappiness, and to eradicate, as we said in the stanza, tanhanang kayamajjaga, to actually end craving. So I'll try to work out from there, and again, but first obviously we will need to look at the way the Buddha, why did the Buddha utter those words. Okay, so at the beginning, or in the beginning, the Buddha talks about, I have been actually wandering throughout samsara, lots and lots of lives, innumerous lives, and I've been trying to find the creator of this house, which obviously is the five aggregates, and I haven't I've been trying my best, but now I have found. And this is what he was going to explain. So if you look at the context of this first sermon, obviously Prince Siddhartha left the palace at the age of 29 and then went through another series of practices for 6 years, and we tell that at the age of 35 he attained enlightenment on the Vesak full moon day. But obviously he also thought it will be very hard for people to understand what I actually understood, so I rather not tell, or rather not speak and contemplate for myself. But upon invitation, then we say that he decided to make a voice on the Asal full moon day, so for which we have observed still to commemorate the utterance of the first discourse. So lots of us do know that when you look at the whole explanation of the Dhammacakkappawatti Sutta, that is the foundation of the Buddhism. Or everything he spoke for 45 years can be actually summarized back. And some people call it like the content of a book. That's the content of the book that you can go through. And everything being discussed for 45 years is actually there. So in pursuit of happiness, lots of people actually engage in things, and this is what the whole experience the Buddha is talking. He has a communication route. Okay, I have understood two things, something that we have to avoid. So 5 friends, listen to me. That is what he said. He started off with. So in pursuit of happiness, everything was done. Now we don't know until age of 29, obviously, he must have actually maybe understood or learned what might be the wave of thoughts during the Buddha's time. Okay, and some people might, refer into what we call a type of belief. I think if I use the word Pali word, sorry if I use the word, it's called Uchedavada. So which is the type of belief that there is no life after, there is, yourself dies out, there is no karma, there is no vipaka, so enjoy life. And is that the route to happiness? Because what comes when you go pursue that sort of life is surely the multiplication of tanha that goes on, and the dissatisfaction of the engagement of indulgence is what he understood. Because if you actually go through that path, we will keep on wanting it more and more and more, and there's never an end to that satisfaction or the desire. And he said, avoid that extreme, because you cannot gain happiness by trying to gain happiness. Okay, you cannot gain that type of happiness by trying to engage in your sensual indulgence, because that was the hedonistic approach. So you cannot achieve happiness through that path. So he told his 5 friends, this is what I understood. There is no sort of essence in what we practice through that path. So after the renunciation, if I use the word, after renunciation, so he left the house, princely life, because he didn't feel that Ramyasubhya palaces or his entire, princely life was going to help him to get what he wanted. Okay, Okay, that pursuit of the contemplative life was not not giving him any sort of stretch or his achieve his goal, because to claim that tanha and kaya majjaga, all that was helping me was to increase the tanha rather than kaya majjaga. So it wasn't helping him. So another wave of thought, let me try. So he left the palace, went to the forest as an ascetic, cut his hair, and excuse me. And you can see that he went through a couple of types of teachings, and we widely know of the two teachers. And even that, so he must have thought, okay, if it is the desire that's actually getting me in this unsatisfaction, now we want satisfaction, but through that we get no satisfaction. So maybe I might try to get rid of this desire. And he tried that. So he tried cutting off things. So in the 10 questions, like in Dasapanya, you can say, Ekanamaking, Sabbe Satta, Ahara. Maybe I can start on with my diet. If I cut down what I like to and what I pursue to eat, maybe we can see if that helps me or not. And he went through that. So the diet is what actually he started to slowly cut off, and in the end, you can see, like in the Gandhara statues, that the whole resemblance of who he was or could have been according to his explanation. He once said, when I touch my head, hair would fall off. When I touch my stomach, I would feel my spine at the back. And he went to that extreme to cut off that desire that was actually the problem which he was thinking was the wrong. Yes, it is. But that is an extreme path he took, because it led him to actually obviously be weak. So that self-mortification also was part of what we might want to call Sasatavada, where eternalism, that life is there in future. So if I cut off all the minus points, what will be left for some people, those that they believe that the plus points will be left, and therefore their lives can be happier from a different angle. So these are the two extremes, Kama Sukhalikana Yoga and Attakila Mathana Yoga, the two extremes that he understood, which he had gone through, and said, this is wrong, they may be kave or goanta. So we have to avoid this. He came to talk about the middle way, because if there is the two extremes, it is the balanced path, or the path. We're not talking about a path that is unique. Everyone has their own unique path for the middle way, because we are all in different stages of attainment. But what he said is, there is a set of Arya Thankyo Magu, there's a set of 8 aspects, that 8 paths that you might actually try with me, so that you can see if you can attain what I understood. And he then laid out that. So in the discourse we see that the Eightfold Path becomes part of the Four Noble Truth. Okay, so you're quite aware of that. So I'm not going to go that far, but I just want to lay out the premise of what I want to talk about. So there are Four Noble Truths, and so we have Dukkha, Samudaya, Nirodha, Magga. So Dukkha is unhappiness, Samudaya is the cause, Nirodha is the cessation or the ending of suffering or unhappiness, and then the path. So that middle way becomes the path, which we just elaborated a little bit. So I'm more interested today in terms of the first line which I'm going to talk about, Visankhara Gatam. And I'm going to talk about that for the next few minutes. And this is where I'm giving the premise of this talk. So there is, so in the lots of people take this very pessimistically when we use the word dukkha, or Buddhism is always talking about suffering. But essentially it's talking about how to achieve happiness through understanding of that suffering. And this is where lots of people have gone wrong, because as soon as we say we say dukkhe patitto loko, and we start talking about in the first sermon straight away life is suffering, or there is suffering in life, people feel a bit sort of, what is this? But that is, they haven't understood what it is trying to give us, the message it's trying to give us. So in the sermon, the Buddha gives about 8 examples. Okay, birth, aging, illness, aging, death, okay, jati, jara, vyadhi, marana, then associating with unloved ones, departing from the loved ones. They're quite practical. I mean, do we need the Buddha to tell us that? Do we need, even a 5-year-old would understand when he or she gets hurt, it is suffering. When they change, when they when they fall down, when things happen, they all have an issue with it. No one needs to come and tell you, and so aneka jati sansara, the lives he spent in trying to, let's use the word research, or trying to investigate and find out what the problem is. Do you think he came to talk about those 4 or 5, 6, 7 things? We all cry when things go wrong. We all cry when sometimes, maybe if you have not understood the Dhamma, when you say our goodbyes, when someone passes away, it is suffering. That is the top level, that's fair enough. That is dukkha dukkha. That is the intrinsic nature of this painful experience that we go through. That is quite normal. It's from a baby cries through a painful experience. When you go through an operation, we also have a painful experience. Now everything happens. As soon as we experience physically or mentally something that is not right, we start going through this painful experience. And my understanding and my interest in this is more or less to do with the 7 and 8, which is yam pichang nalabati tampi dukkham. And minutely, if you start discussing this carefully, have a thought, yam pichang nalabati dukkham. Something that didn't go according to your expectation, something that did not happen to what you wanted, to how you wanted to happen, something that doesn't stay the way you want it to stay, like our hair to start off with, or good health to start off with. See, go back to all the 4 things: birth, aging, illness. We all want to stay as it is, as we are, but it doesn't happen. And that is dukkha, that is that inescapable experience the Buddha wanted to understand. Maybe we can understand that differently, so that that happiness that we are in pursuit of is attainable. And that is what the Buddha wanted to understand. And surely you must have learned or heard thousands of sermons on this, but let me just remind you, that is where dukkha starts. Viparinama dukkha. Dukkha dukkha, intrinsic. Then second is viparinama. This is that the type of dukkha that we are going through into the second level is about that through the change of pleasant and unpleasant, pleasant things, to the change of that, when it goes into the opposite, unpleasant, we actually experience a different type of pain and suffering. Okay, viparinama. It's not just physical change, but our thoughts, when it changes, it goes through a different type of experience. So I might even enjoy watching TV, if you do watch. And we are watching TV, if you do watch. Have you noted, whenever the advertisement comes, you go a bit half-puff. See, the change of our happiness or the change of our mental track changed, and then we just say, or we make an exclamation because of the 5 minutes advertisement, and then you go a bit of unhappy. Sometimes I've seen few people, as they read a book, they start crying. Why? Because the character in the book they're reading has died, or something has happened. Now, even in the thoughts, the process is that, when things are going not the way you want it to happen, there is a problem. So when we enjoy our good health, or when we enjoy our day-to-day experience like life, just have a thought. From the time you woke up to the time you go to bed, how many of us have spent time thinking, what am I going to wear? What am I going to do today? What am I actually going to eat? Always it's self-centered. It is self-centered discussions we have from the time we wake up. And then we have a tick list. If you can do, we think we've achieved. If you can't do, then the change also, or the anticipation, everything makes us feel unhappy. So we become we tend to make ourselves very sort of mechanical by the tick list that we do. So that is what we're talking about here. The change in physical, the change in mental experiences also brings us a different level of unhappiness, or a different level of, if you use the word, suffering. You can use the word stress, anxiety, frustration, irritation. All of these are words. The new buzzword is stress, because you couldn't get it done the way you wanted. You couldn't finish something. And then, so you're going to do something to achieve happiness, but you end up becoming sad. Okay, you have a target. That's why I said a to-do list. And you start off with something, okay, if I do this, I know I'm going to be happy, I'm free. But then you end up again becoming unhappy. You must be playing video games. When you don't win, you get sad. When you don't go to the next level, you could get sad. The viparinama. So you're enjoying, you went to a nice track of excitement and enjoyment, suddenly it drops out. So that is the viparinama dukkha, the experience till we actually change. So the key point, the third one is where my base is. Okay, so the third one is sankhara dukkha. So it is the conditioned dukkha we're talking about, the experience that we gain through the condition of the mind, sankhara dukkha. How does the mind work? So I think there's lots of variations of ways we can understand this, but I'll just talk very few. With the few minutes I have, I'll talk a little bit about what this is. So the conditional experiences is it's more or less like analyzing the state of the mind, how the mind works, and that gives us understanding of what it is. So I'll start off with a small analogy. If I have hot water and I have a tea bag, so I put the tea bag into the hot water. So what will happen? The water starts slowly coloring. So the water has become conditioned. It's no longer water, it's tea. And this is the type of thing, so the type of experience we get through the conditioning mind is what? I've stopped that conditioning issue, I've stopped the tea bag entering the water. And that is the skill we have to develop. Because lots of us do, with the viparinama dukkha, we let the tea bag stay in the water to brew. And if we are skillful at a slightest level, we'll take it out in a perfect time. Then we drink the water. That is like dealing with issues and then forgetting about it. But majority of us sometimes let the tea bag stay in the water, forgetting how it conditions the mind. So the tea gets stronger, stronger. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, 1 day. If it was Devadatta Hamduru, lives and lives and lives. He couldn't take the tea bag out. in the correct time. We sometimes forget. We go to the bin, take that same tea bag again, and then talk about it. Sampapalapa. We take the same tea bag and corrupt our minds. So we talk about whatever the mind got conditioned, we still sometimes engage with it. And the more we indulge, it's called manjana, the more we indulge or the more we engage with it in different level, we still form another wavelength of thoughts. Another wavelength of thoughts, a chain of thoughts if you want to call it. So that becomes the root of a different level of problems, which we don't see it. So that root is very, so if you are skillful, you can take it out and be very sort of productive. Otherwise, sometimes we only realize after 5 minutes of a week, we say, oh, the tea is a bit strong now, we need to take it out. But then it's already strong, and sometimes we can get away with it. So, so it comes to a stage where it influences a different level of our conceptions and conceptuals, and then gives us a different sort of a chain, which we actually then sometimes get lost due to many, many reasons. So what are these conditioning factors? So in lots of places, like the water is clean, our mind is also clean at birth. So it gets corrupted or conditioned by agantuka kilesa, the kilesas, or it gets corrupted by the objects that actually enter through our senses. And like the tea getting stronger, so in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, you might see how the Buddha put it, Pancha Upadana Khanda Dukkha. You hold on to that tea bag and never let it go. And that's where the dukkha is. It's a dukkha that arose from the conditioning factor. So we all do is go to the bin and take the tea bag again and again. That is what it is in a sense. Okay? So how does this work? So you must be quite aware of this, that sometimes how does this the khanda, the five aggregates arise within us, or we are the components, we can call it components. Okay? There is the you, if I call it, there is the sense, and there is the object. So the fusion or the contact or the fusion of this subject and object, chakku, rupa. So when they fuse in, when they connect, we call it vedana. Yeah, so when they fuse, like the tea bag fusing with the water, hot water. Okay, chakku and rupa. The only action, when the consciousness is there, then only it is identifiable as this rose flower. We can see it. So you only are aware of it when those 2 or 3 things got together, which you're quite you know about this. So there's I, there's an object, and there's a consciousness. So like chakku and so when the feelings, when the experience or investigation's done, and then the perception starts coming up into your memory, your knowledge. And we all identify this with our knowledge, and that's where things could start going wrong. Okay? So I identify this as rose, or yellow, or pink, or what color this is. Yeah, rose color. So the moment actually my eyes got intact with this, it was here, I didn't see it, I was talking to you, I wasn't aware of it, but now when I'm talking about it, I'm actually generating a wavelength, or it's starting me to generate some more ideas. So if I were not aware of the proliferation, you could remember Valentine's, or you could remember Haggala, Nuvareli, or some botanical garden rose flowers. And then suddenly we have deep inside a way of sort of analyzing it. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it nice? Is it not nice? Like a spider. Spider stays in the cobweb, and then as soon as an insect or as soon as the vibration takes place of the web, it's like the feeling starts to vibrate within our head when you see that, okay? And then the spider goes to the object, the item, analyzes it. If it is good, it will then start acting. Then that's how the volition and karma starts, when we start analyzing. So when you start analyzing, so it starts proliferating many sort of ideas. Okay, the comparison, or even likes and dislikes, or even the way you just form an opinion. So we start being judgmental. So when you become judgmental through the perception or through the understanding, we lose some sort of insight there, because we come to the perception where we actually, they have no real in essence. So if I thought about like a different past experience of a rose flower, essentially that is not here right now. So I am actually getting a bit deluded. I'm actually getting lost in the past, because I'm trying to see the way I want to see this flower. I'm trying to see the flower the way I want it. So I actually use every knowledge to justify that this is what it is. I use every knowledge, your botanical knowledge, if you are very, I use every knowledge, okay? But then, because it is in the past, if it was, or in the future of something, sometimes, because in reality, there is no essence, because this is the flower that's just in front of me. But when I say, oh, it's a nice one, I've formed an opinion, I've formed a like towards it, I've formed a value towards it, and then that value doesn't come without expense, so it comes with your justification, obviously. So that is what then we try to, when you judge, we try to bring in some sort of a satisfaction in our judgment. We try to bring in some sort of pleasure. Then that is still a deluded factor. So when I compare this to something, or when I like it, or when I like it, I have abhijja. When I actually try to reject it, oh, it's not good, my one is better, the one in my garden is better than this one, or any sort of reason to actually, we even find excuses to like or dislike. That's a bit funny there. We find excuses to like and dislike. So one, the like is there, that is tanha. Two, conceit comes in, mana. Any justification to either to either let it down, or to actually even to accept or to reject. We have that sort of conceit in our heads. And sometimes that is because we have ditthi. We have an idea of an opinion. We already have a mindset which we then compare this to, the ideal concept sometimes. And in most cases, in our discussions, in day-to-day lives, in other types of experiences, we bring in those views. Could be politics, could be cultural, could be, religion, could be your practice, could be what you like. It already has become a ditthi, what you already had, the pre-mindset, which you then compare that to. And that is very sort of dangerous in a way, because that itself is a load of issues. Sakkaya ditthi. That itself is a load of issues. And the moment we bring this egoistic approach and attitude to things, we are either in the past or in the future. The moment we do that, as soon as we actually justify things, we've actually gone straight into a different way of thinking. We're not at the moment. That is what we encourage in Vipassana, to do mindfulness. That you're not in the moment. So the moment we justify, we have been driven by two factors. We're like, avijja becomes just a driver, then the signals left or right becomes your tanha or dosa, like and dislikes. And we just go diverted straight away. We get diverted into our, because, we just don't realize that the moment we actually identified it, the delusion has started to work on. The word I, my. That comes into existence the moment the fusion starts and the awareness starts happening. I like it. I don't like it. The moment you use that word itself, it becomes a barrier for understanding. So we've got to try to understand this, that level. So sankhara dukkha is that sort of opinions that we generate that actually multiplies and gives us more problems. Okay? So sometimes, the best way for you to understand, if you do, sometimes you can expand a big rubber. What you could do is you can write every chitta viti, write 14 of them, and then just let it go. And then you have all thing in one small, slight nanosecond. You can see it. But when you deeply analyze, you can see that the stretch of ideas are very step by step it happens. But we don't see that until we actually settle down to actually think about it. Okay? So when you settle down, this is what people always use an example of, is water is shaking. Our minds are always shaking. It's chanchala. Yeah? Chittang yasana kampati. That's where that phrase comes from. Your mind is always shaking. When it shakes, can you see what's in the bottom? You can't see what's in the bottom. So it has to settle down a little bit. Settle down, settle down, settle down. And then deep underneath, you can see all the defilements that we always unknowingly, due to our knowledge that we just discussed, unknowingly stir it. Every moment, the fusion of eye to the object, ear to the sound, nose to the smell, mouth to the taste, body to the experience, and then thoughts, the mind to the thoughts. Every second, it's being stirred, and we don't allow that. We don't allow it to settle down. Why? Because we're always making a judgment. We're always thinking about things. We're always doing these things, always this and that. So when you do that, it becomes unskillful. We are being stretched unskillfully because we are either driven to the left signal, which is lobha, right signal, dosa, by the avijja. And all is like that. So when you settle down, it becomes a skillful thing that we are not actually diverting ourselves anywhere. We try to understand. So one way of understanding is, that's why we come to Lakshana even in the sermon, try to sometimes see that there is no sort of permanent entity in this, even in the thought. I always tell this. When I talk to my mother over the telephone, the only image that comes to me is when I saw her last on a Skype call 2 years ago. She must be very old now. She must be very feeble. But then my mindset is, my mother is like this. But the moment we get rid of that thought, it allows more empathy to come in. Sometimes more, trying to understand more through things. So I actually then think that, there always a change in there. And you have to accept it. Accept that there is going to be a change. The change doesn't come just in physical things, but the change comes in our mental thoughts as well. That's why this Visankharagata is very, so the thoughts also change. So if say for example, this second I saw the rose flower, if someone spoke to me about lime, nunudehi, then my thought goes to one of the time I ate food. For some of you, you might even saliva might come in. And so can you see how the mind works? And so the thought from the rose suddenly changed into a different thing. And that technically happens every second or in a minute, more than, not, in this duranga. Every second it happens. And this is what the Buddha said, if I were to actually, if I could do this, I try to find this creator of this problem or component of all this thing. I've been trying, I found it. And I found is that the desire, that the tanha that actually starts being to go either way. So understand this, because if you look at the flower and if you look at the thoughts, and when there is change, if I don't accept it, I'm imposing a deluded version of myself. Okay, egoistically. It's a deluded version of self, okay? So I want it to be permanent. I want to be healthy. I want to be happy. Then I don't want to be unhappy. I don't want to be sick. All these things are, there's some sort of a transition of thoughts in ourselves. So when I look into like that, whenever I think about this, the word I, I've already started a barrier. So I'm not saying that we can't use that in a day-to-day conversation, but do you hold on to that thought like I've held the picture of my mother 2 years ago? So I've held on to that. Do you hold on to the thoughts that come and you don't release it? To be free from suffering, okay? To be free from the creation of the 5 aggregates, the sankhara dukkha is a very good way to understand and try to start your way towards it. So learn how to be free. Learn how to be able to take the tea bag out quickly, to start off with. If it was the Buddha, he would not let the tea bag enter the water. But we can try to come to that stage. So learn how to actually, release. So when the upadana happens, when the clinging happens, I don't want to be sitting down and suffering. Maybe I want a cushion. Even that thought itself has created some sort of a deluded sort of opinion. Because we thought that suffering is going to be lasting forever. And we just make our, as I said, so we don't realize that the advertisement on the TV is actually, either to give you a break, or maybe to sponsor, or maybe to actually keep your suspension, but we just take it too personally. So the moment we actually have the imposition of the self, we develop, or I use sometimes the word personalizing. Everything you start personalizing, then we've lost the fact or understanding that actually you have no control over it. There's no control. We can't will on it. We can't will. If I had the ability, if I had the self, then I must be able to, stop changing. But I don't have. So the moment I actually like it, I've actually brought in a permanent attitude. The moment I dislike it, I've also brought in some permanent attitude. And that itself has led you to actually come to a misunderstanding of the object, and therefore we are always in the delusion. So the Buddha says, try to avoid this. So set yourself free. Cittang yasana kampati. Don't let the things that come into you change you. Don't let them change you. Let it be. If it goes wrong, let it be. If it goes okay, let it be. It's okay. Just let it be as it is. Don't try to will over it or like have control over the things in the personalized things. That's where the sankhara dukkha starts coming, because we get conditioned. So from a mishap, we don't fall asleep sometimes in the night. From a good thing, we don't fall asleep, we are so excited. Things like that is what we are talking about, this conditioned mind. So this is what the Buddha said. First, understand the dukkha, understand that that suffering, parinye in the discourse. Secondly, he said, try to stop the tea bag or eradicate the things that actually condition. So tanha is the factor that actually conditions the mind. Okay, so let it be like this. So in Pali, the Buddha says, pahatabba, parinyeya, pahatabba. Eradicate the things that actually condition. So in the first sermon, the Buddha talks about tanha, is the tanha kayamajja. That's the point is. That is what, because the pursuit of happiness actually, as I said, is because we desire for something and then we end up in the unhappiness state. So the state of understanding of the clarity or nibbana or the cessation of suffering is there once you do that. So you've got to actually realize that, attain that state of mind. And then he gives the Eightfold Path to actually practice the Dhamma. Okay, so that will help you to be unconditioned, asankhata. Eventually, after visankharagatam, so that leads you to become the asankhata, unconditioned mind. When the mind is unconditioned, when the water hasn't become tea, there is always happiness, there is always freedom, there is always nothing telling you to actually do or be, and you are completely free. So in lots of texts and lots of, you can see there's an example of things happen. Be the lotus flower for that reason. Lotus flower doesn't get affected by the mud, but it uses the state to be free and beautiful and above the waters even. But it still is in the mud. So things happen, we get the tea bags, but don't get affected by the tea bag or the kahat. And that is the essence of visankhara gatang cittang tanhanang kayamajjaga. He boldly stated that it is possible, I found a way, you can experience by practicing the Eightfold Path. So sankhara dukkha is a type of unhappiness or uneasiness or frustration, irritation created by a mental formations of ideas which we are not in control, but we can still control. Okay? The nature of the mind is to be understood for that reason. So I'm going to stop here, and hopefully this short sermon has given you some sort of insight to what the type of dukkha that the Buddha wanted us to understand. And in a sense, dukkha, intrinsic dukkha or unhappiness, viparinama or dukkha or unhappiness due to change, and conditioned state of mind which we cling on to unnecessarily as always, and also let ourselves then into a different wave of length of thoughts that again still proliferates more issues and problems in our lives and our state of mind. So I take this opportunity to share the good deeds that we have done today, especially to offer merit to the most venerable Dharanagama Kusala Dhamma Nayaka Thero, who established the Sri Sambodhi Buddhist Meditation Center and who launched the first Buddhist TV channel. May he, may he be happy and peaceful. May he also extinguish all the kilesas and realize the Dhamma and ultimately attain Buddhahood and Nibbana, and may our merit be conducive towards that as well. So we also offer merit to all departed bhikkhus who have actually worked fearlessly to protect the Dhamma and the Sasana, and the sponsors today, Don and Dhru Ratnaik and Sons, would want to share all the merit to all the venerables, and also especially the Dharanagama, most venerable Dharanagama Kusala Dhamma Nayaka Thero as well. Furthermore, we also offer our kind and loving thoughts and merit to our departed parents, brothers and sisters. So please say sadhu 3 times to actually Idamme Nyatinang Hotu Sukhita Hantu Nyatayo. Idamme Nyatinang Hotu Sukhita Hantu Nyatayo. Idamme Nyatinang Hotu Sukhita Hantu Nyatayo. Akasattha Chabhammatha Deva Naga Mahitthika Punyantang Anumoditva Chirang Rakhantu Sasanam. Akasattha Chabhammatha Deva Naga Mahitthika Punyantang Anumoditva Chirang Rakhantu Desanam. Akasattha Chabhammatha Deva Naga Mahitthika Punyantang Anumoditva Chirang Rakhantu Mam Paranti. Sadhu
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Today the session is done by Most Venerable Nepale Sumana Thero, and we would likely most reverently to say our respect for being with us today. The Dhamma sermon was sponsored by Mr. Don Ratnaika and Mrs. Dhru Ratnaika and Sons. Samma Sambuddhu Saranai.